Council meeting to order Monday, March 24th, 2014. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Here.
Carroll.
Here.
Curzine.
Present.
Daughtery.
Here.
McManus. Midnight.
Here.
And Mizell.
Here.
Thank you.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for prayer. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, we come tonight thanking you for the many things that you do for each and every one of us. Be with this meeting, dear Heavenly Father, that each decision we make will be for the betterment of the community. Be with the ones in our community that have loved ones, dear Heavenly Father, that are ill. Not only be with the ill, but be with the caregivers. Be with the ones in our community that have lost loved ones, dear Heavenly Father. Be with our armed service personnel, not only on foreign grounds, but here in the United States. Guide and direct their families, bring them safely home to their families. We ask it in thy precious name. Amen. Need a motion to approve the minutes of 3/10/14. Moved by Mr. Corzine, second by Mr. McManus. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Curzine.
Yes.
Daughtery.
Yes.
McManus.
Yes.
Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Before we get started, I do want to thank the City Council and Mr. Carroll for presiding over the last regular council meeting. I appreciate that. First item, citizens' request. Having none. Mayor's report. Announcement for the spring cleanup weeks of May the 5th and the week of May the 12th. That will be advertised in the newspaper along with a document that tells the citizens what will be picked up and what will not be picked up. Next item, motion to accept advertising for summer help, to accept applications from March the 26th through April the 30th, 2014. Second. Moved by Mr. McManus, second by Mr. Mizell. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Curzine.
Yes.
Daughtery.
Yes.
McManus.
Yes.
Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item, motion to accept proceeding with flower baskets for Market Street and Lower Ferry.
Second.
Moved by Mr. McManus, second by Mr. Barfield.
Yes.
Most of the people really like that, and that gives a first impression on the town that it's, you know, neater.
Where's the money coming from?
Motel hotel tax, and some contributions from individuals. And I did talk to Blaine today, and he sent me a fax, and it will be right about where it was last year, about $4,000. That includes the flowers and all the new inserts that goes in the bottom of the baskets. So, and he'll start that as soon as weather permitting. I don't think we'll do it tonight since it's going to freeze tomorrow night. So, call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Curzine.
Yes.
Daughtery.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes. Next item, motion to adopt resolution authorizing the execution of a law enforcement mutual aid agreement and the existence and formation of the Illinois State Enforcement Alarm System by intergovernmental cooperation.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Midnight. And second by Mr. McManus.
Discussion.
Yes, sir.
First of all, do we have to have an account set up to pay the bills incurred when we move someone into another city for law enforcement? Each responding public agency shall assume sole responsibility for insuring and indemnifying its own employees as provided by state and federal law. And it also says that provided that, however, at all times, the personnel of responding public agency shall remain employees of their own agency and shall adhere to the policies and procedures of their own employer. Otherwise, the city of Metropolis, it would be responsible for everything that happened while they were deployed. If they got in trouble with a citizen in another town, we could be sued right here, according to what I read in this paper.
I have a problem with that.
And then I don't know whether we'd have to have a separate account to pay these bills or not. We don't have nothing.
Don't that normally go through the police commission or anything before it just strictly to us?
What's that?
This law enforcement mutual aid agreement.
No, usually it's strictly to us.
Strictly to us, okay.
Yeah, it is, usually strictly to us. This is like the second one, this is an update of one we
Right.
did previously. We
Yeah.
did this.
We've got one now.
We have one in place already. It's, this is an update that the state police has put out. We have them on the fire department level, we have them on the utility side. Everybody always covers their own employees and pays their own employees' wages. If it's an emergency where there might be reimbursement for overtime, then typically, the other communities will, reimburse you for the overtime, and then they can seek reimbursement themselves through the FEMA or IEMA. Most of we have pretty limited, risk under the law, because our emergency people, firefighters and police, have a lot of statutory immunities, okay? And those statutory immunities apply not only to them, but to us as their employer. In addition, we have insurance coverage, which has riders for the police department specific to public safety employees, as well as to all public safety employees, whether it be fire department, first responders, or police department. So, I mean, this one is pretty much typical of the ones we've done in the past. When we say, when we talk about record keeping and keeping track of funds, that's an accounting procedure. It doesn't require setting up a separate bank account to do that. We don't set up separate bank accounts. That's simply an internal accounting procedure that we utilize. We've done it on everything from the ice storms to the floods to the tornadoes to you name it. That's how we handle it. So,
Chad, what is the group through the firefighters? What's the name of that group?
It's Mavis, mutual
Mavis.
aid box alarm system.
If you remember back during the flood and the ice storm, the Mavis group from Marion, they sent probably, I remember, I don't know how many times they were down here, but I remember the night that we sandbagged at Carter and Crestview. They actually sent like, I want to say 13 to 15 men from the fire department, Marion, Heron, wherever, through a mutual aid agreement. Now, you know, it's reciprocal. I mean, when they send them down here, if they have a problem up there, you know, we should do the same thing.
Did we pay their salaries while they was here?
No, we didn't. And that's just like the IMEA. You know, when they send down, that's a mutual aid agreement we had through that agency.
Is anyone below Carbondale or on this, belong to this? This says Carbondale and Saline County, and the rest of them are far north. Next to the last page.
I can't speak to that, I don't know.
Isn't this kind of what we did during the
We've got one right,
tornado?
we've got one right now, just like this.
Exactly the same thing. I mean, we had a lot of work equipment.
The wording may be changed a little bit.
Who's the writer of this resolution, you know? Did someone, this is not from someone here.
Oh, no, Mr. Massey actually sent that to us to review and go over, and I'm sure, I mean, it's just like any other resolution or most resolutions that we get, we don't write. I mean, they send them down for our review. We don't write them.
Well, anybody can write a resolution, I know that, but what I'm thinking of is, here we are trying to hash this out in the council meeting. Why didn't it come before a committee? Then we could ask these questions in a committee and have maybe Mr. Massey here. But here we are trying to hash it out in open council, and we don't really know much about it. And we don't have anybody here that does. I don't know.
Well, if that's, I mean, it's before the, I mean, do with it what you want to. I mean, if you wanna pass it, somebody make a motion. If you don't, send it back to me. We have a motion, we do have a second, so, I mean,
We've got one in force already.
yeah, we've got one in force right now.
I mean, if y'all want to send it back to committee, make a motion. Don't sit there and complain.
I'll make a motion, we send it back to the committee then.
I'm not complaining about it, you know, it's just like Mr. Curl said, this just came to us and we're trying to hash it out here and don't know a thing about it. Now, when was the last time we saw the last resolution? 8 or 9 years ago?
Maybe
Mayor, I'll
longer than
withdraw
that.
my motion.
You know, so-
May have been longer than that, I don't know. We do have a motion, we do have a second.
You made a motion to table, I think.
We didn't
Get a
get
second.
did we
A
have a
second.
second? Okay, okay. We do have a motion and a second to table. Call a roll, please.
Barfield,
No.
Carroll,
Yes?
Corzine,
No.
Daughtry,
Yes.
McManus, Midnight,
No.
and Mizell.
No. Failed. Okay, now we need to go back and vote on it again. We do have a motion on the table of Mr. Midnight with a second with Mr. McManus to proceed with a resolution. Call a roll, please.
Barfield,
Yes.
Carroll,
No?
Corzine,
Yes.
Daughtry, McManus, Midnight,
Yes.
and Mizell.
Yes. Motion passed. Yeah. Why you got it on your mind. Next item. Motion to accept removal of the 69 kV transmission line that feeds the west substation located along Broadway from 4th through 9th Street by Big D Electric project, which would take between 2 to 4 days at a cost of $5,000 per day. If you remember back when we, Stoney, you want to speak to it? Verbal was down over the, let me see, I guess it was last Friday, Thursday or Friday, and met with Stoney about that line, if you would.
This is the line that comes off Fourth and, or Broadway and Fourth Street. It used to feed up to the west substation, which we now dismantled. When Ameren came in to cut that line, all they did was left it suspended there on the northeast corner. It's just hung on by ropes. This line is above ours, which we do not have the equipment to get up there and dismantle. That's the need for a contractor to come in.
And they will work it hot.
Yes.
No, it's dead.
It's not, it's dead.
It's dead. But our line is hot below it.
The line below.
Yeah, this line
So
is
it
dead.
is, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I did question Verbal about 2 to 4 days, I could understand, and the way she explained it to me Friday was that it will take them about a day to blanket everything, you know, that is hot.
Everything below it, our lines.
And then she thinks that it would take about 2.5 days. But, and the reason to do it now is Big D is actually an hour away everywhere they're at.
Right, I think right now they're, well, they were working in Florida.
Okay.
I think they lost that bid on that, and Ingles there now.
And they'll be in this area for around 2 weeks. So her suggestion was that we go ahead and get it done while we have a contractor here where we don't have to bring them back into the area.
Well, guys, I've gotta go back on my stump about the bidding. If it goes to 4 days, that's over $20,000. Our own ordinance that we just raised up to 20,000 says we will bid it. This isn't bidding, we're going off a quote. I don't agree with that at all.
And I believe you're right. But, the need to get it done and the reasoning behind it was that there is a contractor within driving distance of the area. And they feel like it's cheaper that way than go out for bid and bring somebody from Chicago or Wisconsin or wherever it takes to get that work done. But, and I did, you know, I apologize for not, it wasn't at a Water Light Street Committee meeting. It has not been discussed.
I just brought it to Verbal's attention on Friday. My concern
And
was
I-
that these are just suspended off the ropes.
And I appreciate that and I understand, but there's laws and rules and regulations that we set up here and we adopt and we pass saying that we're gonna do it. Now we're sitting there turning right around and trying to get around it. That's not right, that's not wise of the city taxpayers' dollars. If it gets up to 4 days, it's over 20,000 and we have all violated the own rule that we set up. We took it from 10,000 to 20,000 and I don't agree with this. I mean, I'm not saying Big D may not come here and do us a good job, and it may cost us more, but we still have rules and regulations we have to follow.
Okay.
Well, Verma said she thought it'd take 2.5 days.
She said, she thinks it'll be 2.5 days. Now, and can we guarantee that? No, but there will be a 4-man crew here, and I could not imagine it taking longer than, in fact, I thought 2 days was a long time, but, she did tell me that it'd take a day to get it ready to take down.
Well, this includes taking care of the lines, all the equipment that's on those poles, and topping out the poles so they're down to where only our stuff is gonna be on the poles. It's nothing we'd have to worry about in the future.
Yeah.
And, you know, getting somebody else back in there to take care of that part.
I might say, we've had a discussion a couple times in the last 6 months. This is work that left over from the conversion.
Yes.
And although our guys have done, since that time, have been able to do probably 90% or more of the remainder, there are little isolated pockets around town that still, at some point in time, have to be buttoned up. And based on experience in some other towns, we talked to BHMG about this last year, if you can catch a contractor between jobs, because these are all short jobs, there's not any one of them that's really a quote project, if you will. And altogether, they're not really a very good project, but you would probably be money ahead, because they did this last year in a couple other IMEA towns. Catching them between jobs periodically, and you don't have to do it all at once, you can put so much in your budget each year. You can get 2 days here, or you get 3 days here. But if you take the time to go bid it, and you take the element of bid, add the cost of bidding in, they've usually been running higher than that. Now that's just their professional opinion, and it's based on some experience that's happened the last couple of years in some of our other IMEA towns. But it's kind of like button-up work, and you're better to hire them by the hour or by the day than you are to try to bid it, because the bids have been coming in higher than the daily price is what's been happening on these small jobs. So I throw that out there for your consideration, but I know that's why she put it to you this way, because they've been studying what the button-up pieces were that we still need to get done.
I understand what Mr. Zine's saying, but what happens if we bypass it and go out for bid and it costs 30 or 40,000?
But we're not gonna be able to bypass it. I mean, it's gonna
No,
have to be,
I'm,
it's gonna have to
but
be
what I'm
done.
saying, we bypass this right here.
Well,
And we go out and it's gonna cost us taxpayers for 30 or 40,000.
Well, the way Verbal explained it to me, and we did have, you know, her and Stoney, met, and she felt like it would be, considerably more than that if we missed the window when Big D was able to come down, while they were in this area. You know, most of those companies like that do the, heavy electric, I mean, they're from all up in the northern part of the state. There's none, you know,
There's
nothing
only a
down
certain
here
few that are qualified
to
for
do
that
that
type. We'd be a dead for that.
without turning the power off or whatever you gotta do and put everybody out there. Anyway, we do have we don't have anything yet.
I will make that motion then.
I'll second.
Mizell?
Yes.
Thank you, Stoney. We do have a motion, we do have a second. Any other discussion? Call roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
No, for reasons previously stated.
Daughtry.
No.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
I think that's all under, my report. Next item, corporate accounts report.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Abel.
On top of your stuff tonight, I'd lay a thing that looks like a thing from IMEA in here. And I know several of you have gone with us in the past. We've had little seminars periodically put on by IMEA around the state. Seminars on everything from Electric 101, how your bill's arrived at, how you do the, you know, things about what goes in, about this aggregation, when we had aggregation a year or so ago, when we had electric, the marketers. Well, now they're starting to do this by, they're starting to do some webinars or teleseminars, if you wanna call it that, and these are free. And so I put on the first page here, there's one coming up April the 8th, it's Regional Transmission Organizations, RTOs. That has a lot to do with what we pay. The regional transmission organizations determine how we get the electric here. I mean, from the power plant to us, we're dependent on somebody else to get it to us, and they're the ones that organize, schedule, price, and do all of this. And so, to the extent, I mean, you could do this, you're welcome to come in, I've registered for it already, you're welcome to come in and do it in my office, you're welcome, if we had enough, we could sit here, or if you want to do it at home, you can call the 800 number, and Tammy will set you up and give you the stuff at home. You can sit at home in front of your own computer and look at it, it's no big deal. But you might find it interesting, if you got an hour and a half to devote on April the 8th, you might find some of that interesting. It tells you a little bit about LMPs. That's kind of what we call considered the market price, and it varies from location to location. That's why it's called locational marginal pricing. That's typically what your energy cost is. Okay, then you still got to add your transmission and your wholesale distribution and those things to that. But I thought, you know, you get people that come up and obviously criticize you about their electric, and sometimes it helps to know a little bit about what all goes into getting the electric down to Metropolis and out to the customers. And in that same vein, about a month and a half ago, IMEA did its annual residential survey of municipalities. I've seen the preliminary results, and they look very good from the standpoint of Metropolis. But Mike Jennen will be here next month to see all of you at a board meeting. Mike will be able to give us comparisons of our rates compared not only to other IMUA municipalities, but we'll see comparisons to Ameren, we'll see comparisons to ComEd, we'll see comparisons to Southern Illinois Electric Co-op, you know, our neighbors all around us. And we may even see comparisons to Paducah Power. I believe he may have that in there, because I know he has some other out-of-state providers that he compares us to, that he gets access to their numbers. So I will tell you that our numbers for this past 12 months look very good, and that speaks well of you all, and speaks well of the electric department. The first item on my list, I wanted to clarify a couple things. I know that there were some questions raised last time about this mayor pro tem, and why didn't we just do a mayor pro tem for the meeting, and as opposed to all week. And the statute on mayor pro tem has been around for a long time, since 1872. But it essentially has two elements that have to be met, or two pieces. You got two issues you gotta touch on in order to justify appointing a mayor pro tem. One is there has to be a temporary absence, and two, it has to result in an incapacity. So you have to have both absence and incapacity, and by incapacity it means an incapable of performing the duties of mayor. Okay. Now, there have only been two cases ever decided about this law. Since 1872, believe it or not, only two cases ever came down. The most recent one was 1983, and really doesn't seem to have much application in our case. Actually, neither one of them have a lot of application to what we've seen around here, but the one in 1983, what happened was, I guess the mayor didn't like what all was going on at the council meeting, so the mayor decided that we just adjourn. Well, they never took a roll call vote on adjourning. The mayor hit the gavel, got up, walked out. So the council elected a mayor pro tem and finished the business. He's never done that, thankfully. But that was legal. That was legal. And the court pointed out that the mayor pro tem is basically a temporary chairman in those instances of the meeting, and that was legal. The case in 1899 involved a mayor that actually was sick, but they went ahead and appointed a mayor pro tem. He just had a flu or something, I guess. I mean, they didn't really go into detail, but he was sick at home. And they went ahead and did that, and the case actually wasn't involving so much the appointment of the mayor as some action that the mayor pro tem took. Mayor pro tem made changes in the city marshal, okay? Well, the court analyzed the case and looked and said, well, when it's a mayor pro tem, they have all the authority of a mayor, which is power to appoint, power to remove, power to change executive policy, okay? And, but in that case, the court overturned it because the court said, well, look, the mayor was just sick, it's temporary, but he wasn't incapacitated. Basically, there was no emergency that justified taking action in his absence to change this city marshal. So when we look at the rule of law, like I said, there's two elements, and we kind of got to think about Blair in the context of what Blair was. And you think about 1899, and I mean, if a mayor was gone, he was gone, okay? I mean, the mayor of Metropolis could have been in Centralia and he'd been gone, because there wasn't telephone, there wasn't, you know, there wasn't internet, there wasn't computers, there wasn't Skype, there wasn't GoToMeeting or any of that kind of technology. And some of that didn't even exist 20 years ago, but it does now. He was probably riding a mule. He was probably gonna take 2 days or 3 days to get back, so he couldn't talk to everybody. And so, you know, in today's context, today's world with things like Skype, GoToMeeting, and all that, it would probably be a rare case that we would ever need a mayor pro tem, okay? Unless the mayor was like Brookport. Brookport's, David, that's a perfect example. Brookport is a perfect example where an emergency came up with the mayor himself that incapacitated the mayor. And that you might need. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't. And, you know, a trip to Washington, D.C., where actually our mayor probably talked to some of our folks more often than he does when he's here, is not one of those kind of situations where you need a mayor pro tem. What we should have done, and what I'll recommend that you do next year, is there's a second paragraph of that statute that says, in their absence, you elect a temporary chair or presiding officer, okay, temporary presiding officer. And that's what we probably should do. We'll put it on there next year like that, because in this day and age, we have department heads that run their departments and make their decisions, and we have agreements on how things are to operate. And barring, and like I say, barring something really catastrophic happened to the mayor, or barring something catastrophic happened to the town, like a tornado where there was no communication, in that case, yeah, you all would come together. If there was a tornado and there was no mayor, mayor was in Timbuktu, then you would come together and at least maybe elect a mayor pro tem until he could communicate again, But for cases like this where it just really is a meeting, basically we just need to elect a temporary chair for those meetings and go on, and that's good enough. But I know it was kind of confusing. Maybe it was confusing how we put it on the agenda too. So
I raised that question because what I understood about it, it was illegal to have a mayor pro tem, and I was saying, well, if it's illegal to have a mayor pro tem, how we have one for a meeting? And I didn't want anything that we done come into question or, our decision making, and,
well, we should have called it temporary chairs. What we should have. I didn't think about. It's gotten to be old habit, and even I tell you what was kind of interesting. I called around and asked some of the guys that were out in Washington, what'd you guys do? Well, it was about 50-50. Most of them don't elect a mayor pro tem. Those that did only did so because they had a meeting like we did. They call it the same. They still call it mayor pro tem. They said we probably should have called it temporary chair. A couple places are commission form, and they've got it already designated that if the mayor is absent from the meeting, then the finance commissioner is the temporary chair and runs the meeting. But that's a little bit different form of government. But basically, those are, my suggestion is next year, just do a temporary chair. That'll take care of it, if you know, unless, of course, he's really gone. But
Just
I mean,
like we do our other meetings.
well, you do that in your committees too, when the chair's gone, so it's the same.
I'm not really gone.
I think this is all uncalled for, because like McManus said, he did ask a question, Bob said something, and I said, I agree with Mr. McManus, but tonight we'll move on with business. And we were out here in 21 minutes.
Yeah.
There was no, I don't know where the confusion's at. Somebody's told a tale here, and I don't know who told it or where it comes from, but what's the confusion that we had? The very words was said, what he just stated, about having a mayor pro tem for 5 days while the mayor was in Washington. Bob said, I don't know whether we can do that or not. I said, tonight we'll worry about this council meeting, and they elected me as mayor pro tem, and we went on with the business. End of story. Right, Bob?
And
I think the chair is
a
gonna
good
be
job,
better.
well done. I think
Now,
the
having said that, since I've heard about this, I've gone through a lot of paperwork, just like the mayor has. I didn't type up 3 pages though to take up some position, but here on the absence referred to in the statute for the appointment of a mayor or president pro tem relates not to the mere absence from the council or the board chamber while the mayor or president is in some other part of the city or village. I assume that's in Chicago area. But rather, an absence from the city or village for such a length of time as would reasonably call for the appointment of a fully empowered replacement. I understand what you're saying about all of the monkeys that we have today, telephones, but I bet you probably had your phone taken from you 4 or 5 times in Washington.
No, never.
What about your other stuff? On the plane, you have to turn it off?
turn it on, they've got airplane mode now.
You have to turn it off, don't you?
You have airplane mode now.
Yeah. Well, regardless, then the present items are to be considered by the council or board that require the signature of the executive officer or mayor or president pro tem should be elected in order that these matters may be properly acted upon. That's what it says here in the statute. And then I go back, I can't help from going way back because I'm old. But I go back to the first ordinance of 1977, and the new one refers to it. It's 3113 and 77. The new one is 31037. And in the old ordinance, and I can tell you some people that served as mayor pro tem if you want me to. Mayor Comer, Mayor Curzine Sr., he had mayor pro tem. And to do little, I wouldn't want to sit in the mayor's office up there all day, but he come up here and actually sat in the mayor's office while Mayor Comer was out of town. And but the old ordinance said temporary absence of the mayor. During a temporary absence or disability of the mayor, the city council shall elect one of its members to act as mayor pro tem, who during such absence or disability shall possess the powers of the mayor. During temporary absence, the mayor may appoint a mayor pro tem to act during such temporary absence. And that's what they did back then. The mayor appointed that mayor pro tem. Now the new one, it just says in the absence of the mayor, the city council may appoint one of its members mayor pro tem. That's your new ordinance. And but what I'm going back to, I don't know whether any of you can remember fires or not, but we lost the hotel, we lost the Methodist church here, and the fire chief lost his job at that time, and they finally got a hold of the mayor and got authorization to call Paducah for help. That's what saved Metropolis Hotel in that half a block, and that's what saved this half a block here. And then we've had fires in Joppa, We've had fires in Brookport, we've had fires in Reedsville, and I say that because I was on the fire department. And the fire chief had to get the mayor's authority to send an apparatus out of town. Now, if the mayor hadn't been available, who would authorize that?
Today, it would be the fire chief, because we have mutual aid agreements that provide for the fire chief to make that
It
decision.
does say that, but with the mayor's authority.
I don't care how we do it, as long as we do it right.
I think a temporary chair is what you need in the future.
Power to send apparatus. Authorization by the fire chief, the chief of the fire department, subject to the approval of the mayor, shall have authority to send fire apparatus and firemen outside the corporate limits of the city of Metropolis whenever requested to do so by the authorities of any city, town, or village lying within a reasonable distance from the city of Metropolis, provided that such apparatus can, in the judgment of the chief of the fire department, be spared from service in the city of Metropolis at the time requested. I'm just trying to protect the city. If I was running for mayor, I'd sure use that in my campaign too.
Well, the statute requires certain things that maybe the ordinance doesn't, and the law today is different than it was 20, 30 years ago. And it's just that the way it operates. And my advice to you is next year elect a temporary chair, and go with that.
But still, yeah, even though you've got the things that you didn't have 20, 30 years ago, if you have a fire and you can't get a hold of the mayor, and you've got to have his signature or his authorization, somebody's building's gonna burn.
Well, I've been here for, we've had some pretty good sized fires in the city and in the county. Now, I'm not saying it's right, wrong, or halfway in between. But I'm sure, and if my fire chief, and you had a bad fire in the city of Metropolis, or in Brookport, or in Joppa, and he refused to go because he couldn't get my authorization, he needs to be replaced.
Well, that needs to be straightened out in this
Well,
paperwork.
because I don't think it means the same thing. I believe that's why you got mutual aid agreements. I believe that's why you have supervisors to make a certain amount of decisions that need to be made.
Mayor,
immediately.
it all boils down to two things. The previous mayor didn't want to pro tem, and I don't think you want to pro tem, but the mayors prior to that, they had a pro tem. And me personally, I don't care if I'd ever be pro tem, because I never did want to be mayor. I'm satisfied being an alderman for 3 more years.
Okay. Any other discussion on any of that?
The other item I put in review was our farm leases. If you prefer, we'll talk about that in closed session to start off, and then we can take any action if you think any action is needed after we talk about it. I did send a memo out in your packets. I mean, I would talk about it here, but typically leases, like all other real estate, are talked about in closed session first, so probably what I recommend. That's all I have, Mayor.
Next committee report, Metropolis Area Tourism, Mr. Barfield.
Yes, sir, Mayor. Metropolis Area Tourism Commission held a meeting March 11th, and now they have this following recommendation to bring before the the council. I will make a motion to accept the recommendation to approve the grant application for the Superman Classic ASA Archery Tournament from June 24th through the 29th in the amount of $43,375.
Motion made by Mr. Barfield, second by Mr. McManus. Discussion? Lindsay, you have anything?
I'm just here for some questions.
All right. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Excuse me, Carroll.
Yes?
Corzine.
Abstain.
Daughtery.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's a short, sweet report, Mayor.
Next item, Park and Recreation Committee, Mr. Carroll.
Yes, Mayor. We passed out the seeding bids from Go Green and Lakeland, and you have that in front of you. And the motion will be to accept the seeding and fertilizing of the soccer fields from Go Green Lawn Care in the amount of $4,544.80, pending required documentation. And that documentation is the fact that he has a license to spray in Kentucky. He's applied in Illinois, and they told him that they would probably just give him a license when he paid the fee. Is that right, Mayor?
Yes, he did call me today, and he called the Department of Agriculture in the state and said that what he told me today was that I guess there's 3 licenses in Kentucky that he has to abide by. They are so close to the same license in the state of Illinois and testing that they told him that there was a very good chance that all he had to do was pay the permit and move forward. But it still needs to be specified in there that he does have to meet the insurance requirements and the application requirements.
And he is $2,422.50 cheaper than the other bid.
What happened to Mr. Pegram?
He's not going to do it this time because of I guess he's kin to the Kickasolas in some way.
His grandfather.
And he is going to be full-time farming this year. He was asked, to put in a bid, and he did not choose to do that.
He called me some 8 months ago and told me that. Then I called him when this come up, and he said, no, I'm still helping my grandpa Kickasola.
Now, he is low, but it's not, it's 200 or something, 400. Yeah, all right. We do have a motion, do we have a second?
I did.
Mr. McManus. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtry.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
That concludes my report, Mayor.
Next committee report, Industrial Committee, Mr. Midnight.
Okay, gentlemen, what we're gonna try to do tonight is speed this up just a little bit, because we got a lot of wherefores and how comes. I'm going to make a motion to suspend the rules and place these, but there are 4 ordinances here, okay? Is it acceptable with you that we suspend the rules on all 4 of those, but then we are going to vote on the ordinances individually?
I'll second your motion.
All right, so I will make a motion to suspend the rules and place each of the following ordinances as listed on the agenda for consideration upon their passage. Bill second.
Mr. Midnight and Mr. Carroll.
Yes, sir.
Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtry.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. That saves a lot right there. Okay, I will make a motion to adopt an ordinance approving the tax increment financing redevelopment plan and redevelopment project for the Metropolis Interstate North Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Project area. What number is that? Thank you.
201408.
Okay.
That was a second, Mr. Curzon.
I got that.
We do have a motion by Mr. Midnight and a second by Mr. Corzine. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtry.
Yes, ma'am.
McManus.
Yes.
Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adopt an ordinance designating and approving the Metropolis Interstate North Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Project area.
Second that as well.
And that would be 09, I assume.
Exactly.
Okay.
We do have a motion by Mr. Midnight and a second by Mr. Corzine. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtry.
Yes, ma'am.
McManus,
ma'am.
Midnight,
Yes.
and Mizell.
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion, we adopt an ordinance adopting tax increment financing in the Metropolis Interstate North Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Project Area.
Second that.
Motion made by Mr. Midnight, second by Mr. Corzine. Call the roll, please.
Barfield,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Corzine,
Yes.
Daughtry.
Yes.
McManus.
Yes.
Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, here's the next one. I make a motion, we adopt an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Metropolis, Illinois, adopting a business district plan relating to an area within the city, making findings of fact with respect to such area, designating and establishing a business district for such area pursuant to the Business District Development and Redevelopment Law, authorizing the levy and collection of a sales tax within such business district, providing for further authority, establishing an effective date, and other related matters.
I'll second that.
Could you read that again, please?
No.
Oh, that's a mouthful.
Motion made by Mr. Midnight, second by Mr. Corzine. Call the roll, please.
Barfield,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Corzine,
Yes.
Daughtry.
Yes.
McManus, Midnight,
Yes.
and Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Listening to all that. Okay, do we want to hold this next item till after the closed session, or
That'd be fine.
is there some, you had some discussion, I thought, on that, or not?
Well, yeah, well, it probably would be, because
Okay.
depending upon how you wanna go on this.
Okay,
Uh,
okay, so we will hold that item on the gas company building till after closed session. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank goodness.
Record time. Miss Minette, very good. It's a mouthful.
Next
We'll
item,
talk after that.
Water, Light, and Street, Mr. Barfield.
Yes, sir, Mayor. This, was brought up at the Water Rights Street Committee meeting last Wednesday. I believe that was 19th. And I will make a motion on the following two. The first one, I will make a motion to take possible action on a quote from Parker Machine Shop for $1,950 for the Babbitt bearings for the East Primary Sludge Pump for the wastewater treatment plant. We had two quotes on this.
How high was the other one, Mr. Barfield?
It was, wow, it was over $1,000.
It was quite a bit more.
Quite a bit more,
About 50% more.
Yeah.
How much, Frank?
50%.
About
50%?
$1,000 more than this one, yeah.
Thank you.
This is about
We do have a motion, we do have a second. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Barfield,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtry.
Yes.
McManus, Midnight,
Yes.
and Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion to take possible action on the purchase of transformer for the inventory from Delta White Electric Company Incorporated in the amount of $15,950 for the light department.
Second.
I do have another quote.
112.
Well, extras this time. This is on our rebuild, since I presented this to you all. Delta Y has changed their warranties on the rebuilds from a 1 year to a 3 year.
Wow, that's cheap. That's great.
So you're saying that the bid went down some $3,000?
The original bid was for a new. This is for.
This is
Just
a rebuild
recondition.
with a 3-year warranty.
How many different companies did you go to?
Yes, just Delta Y is the only
Just
one.
Delta Y?
It's the ones we've had the most success with and the least amount of problems.
The warranty, is that in service time or delivery time?
In service.
In service? So if we didn't put it in service for 4 years, then it'd be a 7-year.
Right.
All right, we do have a motion
So
by
this
Mr.
is okay
Barfield.
with you? It's okay with you to go with the rebuild?
Sure is.
Good,
Take a 3-year warranty over 1 year.
absolutely.
And that is to change your paperwork, if you would,
So 12,900.
12,900.
I'll make my, motion that effect.
Dual voltage.
Yes. Yes, the exact same specs as the.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very good, Sony, thank you.
All right.
All right, we do have a motion by Mr. Barfield, second by Mr. McManus, changing the amount from $15,950 to $12,900 on a rebuilt transformer. Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes?
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtry.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
That concludes our report, Mayor, if you have something to add to that.
Yeah, under Waterlight Street, last week or week before last, there was a time when we had your last water and lights
Actually,
committee.
yes.
Okay. If you remember, Mr. Morse brought up the subject of the air conditioners at the fire station. And he was pushing for a new unit, if you remember.
Thank
Yep.
Well,
Right.
since then, he has changed his position on that. And he would, Chad is here representing Jason tonight. And Chad came in and talked to me before the meeting and said Jason would like to make a recommendation that we go with just changing the compressor out on that air conditioning. Because of guarantees, there was some real confusion on buying new units, and I can't remember exactly what the difference was, but the warranty for the compressors was better than the warranty on a new unit.
Start to say that.
So, and the approximate cost of that is $2,300, right, Chad? And that is from Griffey Heating and Air. And Jason would like to have permission from the council to proceed with that because of the restraint on the weather and stuff like that, where that can be up and running. And then we will ratify that at the next council meeting with a formal vote, if that is acceptable to the committee.
I'll go along with it.
Oh, well, you got no problem.
Consider the rest of the whole unit.
Chad, just pass that on to
Yeah.
Jason, but now we need to make sure and noted that we will have to bring that when, Mr. Griffey gets through. We do need the bill where we can put it on the agenda and ratify that at the next city council meeting. Acceptable? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chad, for doing that. Department heads, Frank?
Yes, Mayor, as we talked about earlier today, the sewer line between Carter and Crestview is collapsed. It just barely has a trickle of flow going through it right now. What we're going to do is tomorrow morning, we're gonna set up a 4-inch pump and pump that line over to Carter, to then go down to Metropolis Street as a stopgap effort until the construction and the replacement of the other line is completed. I talked to Chad from HMG. It'll be about a 2-week period before they can take and get the equipment and mobilize, and then we'll start from there. It'll be a little inconvenient. We're gonna take and we're gonna pump the system first thing in the morning and the last thing at night before we go home, and that line should have enough capacity to hold them overnight. And we'll do this until the line is repaired.
We will make, we're going to make every effort we can, within our control to make sure that not any of the residents there, have a problem. In fact, right now, I only know of one that has had an issue, and he's had an issue probably for a month or so. It's worked, but now it's becoming a little slower. So Frank and I met this afternoon, and Frank agrees with me. We don't want anyone to be inconvenienced to the point where so we're gonna make that last ditch effort to make sure that that line is maintained until the new line is put in. It is going to take some time. It may even take a little bit over. It's gonna be trial and error. It's gonna be trial and error. We don't know for sure right now if,
2 times and do it.
well,
Is that one?
if we have to do it every day, we're gonna do it before we,
Is that one have a basement that you was talking about?
I don't think so.
Well, anyway, this ought to let you know that way in case you
Do get a call.
reports, you got some big diesel pump out there doing something in my neighborhood.
Me and Mr. Barfield was just discussing that.
As far as I know, we didn't get any calls on it today.
That's good.
So, I think it's gonna be all right, but it may be, we may have to do, trial and error to see how many days or how long that lasts to pump down. If it happens that we have to do it on the weekend or something like that, if it doesn't fall right, we'll see that it gets done.
It gets done, amen.
It's gonna have to be done on the weekend. Especially get most of your water use, people will be home more.
Yeah.
So
So,
we have to do it 2 times.
Whatever what it takes is what we're gonna do to maintain it until we get it put in.
Sounds good.
That's it.
All right, thank you, Brian.
Stoney, you have anything else you wanna bring up?
No, sir.
Lindsay, Chad, and Chad. Like I said, Verbal was in town, Friday. We kinda forgot what Verbal actually looked like and sounded like. It'd been so long since you'd been here. It's been several months since we've had a project, and, I will say in front of, Stoney, Verbal had nothing but good things to say about our electric department. You know, as you know, we've had a lot of major projects and everything like that, and the guys have really stepped up. They're all learning, and they've been able to do most of the projects themselves. I guess this is actually the first project that we talked about tonight that's not been able to be taken care of our in-house crew, which is saving us a lot of money. And they're doing a good job, and they're all up on the training. So Verbal did ask me to pass that on to the council. They are doing a very good job. Old business.
I've got a couple things, but I'll wait till our closed session.
New business.
Mayor, every time I go past the soccer fields, I notice a new pile of gravel. Where in the world's all that gravel coming from? Is the high school putting that out there, or we?
No, we are putting a lot of it out there. Now, that big pile down there belongs to,
Christian, yeah,
Well, I was wondering where it's all coming from.
we actually
That
have
heck of a pile down there.
yeah, we actually have grant money that is actually, we have in there to, that can be used at the sports park, either place, the baseball fields, or the soccer fields. It can be used for rock, it can be used for concrete. Right now, we're in the process of pouring concrete at the soccer complex. We've actually completed the walkways and the approaches. We have quite a bit more concrete work to do in there, but it is grant money that they send down by the quarter. That all we have to do is make sure that we keep track of the product, and it can be used on either place. And we're gonna have some, the Park and Recreation Committee last week, we're gonna have to put some more rock on the baseball part of it.
roads around, access
You know, to
roads.
try to get around behind.
Well, that's where the question originated. Somebody said, well, how come we can't get the rock that they're getting? And I don't know, but I'm gonna ask, so.
Well, they got rock last year.
No, this was
a
just
lot
a
of it.
parent.
Yeah.
You know, parent may not know.
Well,
all-
the big pile
but-
down there is for the Crestview sewer.
No, that big pile kinda caught my eye too, and I'm like,
And it's
Well,
gonna get bigger probably,
It kinda caught our eye too, cause we was into it.
before we do where it can
Yeah.
go.
I'm not asking no more questions about that. Right.
Well, we had a pretty good discussion in the Park and Recreation Committee meeting the other day about that pile of rock.
Yeah, this grant, Mayor, it's a couple of years old now, or a little over a
A
year.
little over a year.
And we've discussed it, I don't know how many times in Park and Rec meetings.
We have, and, that's where it's coming from, so,
I missed it, all I got was a punchline.
yeah. Miscellaneous reports. Financial report, payroll of salaries, payroll and contract bills.
So moved. Second.
Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtry.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Payment of miscellaneous bills.
Move that as well.
Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtry.
Yes.
McManus. Midnight.
Yes.
And Mizell.
Yes.
Thank you.
We do have need for a executive session, sale, lease, and exchange of real estate.
Yep, that'd be,
Will I catch all of them?
I think so.
I think so.
All right.
Unless
Was that
somebody
get what
wants
Mr.
one. Well, I mean,
Mizell says as well?
what
I don't know what
can
he-
you think of, something
Yeah.
you can tie yours into?
Just, I just had a question on sale, just go to that.
That, okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
So I'll make that motion.
Lots of seconds.
Call the roll, please.
Barfield.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Corzine.
Yes.
Daughtry.
Yes, ma'am.
McManus.